Roseanne met the resident house cat, a rare white Bengal tiger named Kenya.
We talked for a long time off the camera.
The new show, Mike Tyson Mysteries, airs every Monday night.
He kept a Bengal tiger in his bedroom, a 550-pound animal named Kenya that he walked on a chain across the grounds of a mansion with its own nightclub, its own cages, a personal zoo built for a man who wanted the world to know he feared nothing. At his peak, he earned close to $400 million, and he spent it like a king who believed the money would never stop arriving. But every animal in that compound, every gold fixture, every estate was quietly teaching him a lesson he would not understand until all of it was gone. To understand how a man loses that much, you first have to see what it looked like when he had everything. The centerpiece was a mansion in Southington, Ohio, roughly 45 miles from Cleveland. Tyson bought it in 1989 at a sheriff's sale for around $300,000, and he rebuilt it into something the surrounding towns had never seen. 25,000 square feet, mirrored ceilings, an indoor pool the size of a small hotel lobby, gold-plated fixtures in the bathrooms, and out back, cages, because for Tyson, a mansion alone was not a statement. A mansion needed something behind the gates that no one else on earth had. So he bought tigers. Reportedly, 3 Bengal tigers, acquired for around $70,000, with an upkeep that ran close to $200,000 a year once you counted the trainers and the housing and the meat. The most famous of them was Kenya, the white tiger he kept for roughly 16 years, the one he slept near, the one that later appeared beside him in a Hollywood film. Therefore, the image the public carried was not just a boxer. It was a man walking a predator across a lawn like other men walk a dog. And that image was the entire point. But it was also the beginning of the problem. What the empire actually was. Here is where most tellings of this story go wrong. They look at the tigers and the mansions and the fleet of cars, and they call it an empire. It was not an empire. An empire produces. An empire sends money back to the person who built it. What Tyson built was the opposite. It was a machine engineered to move money in one direction, outward, away from him, and it never stopped running. Consider the scale of the outflow. At certain points, he was reportedly spending as much as $240,000 a month on clothing and jewelry alone. On a single afternoon at a Las Vegas jeweler, he is said to have spent around $173,000 on watches and chains and rings. The Ohio estate was one property among several. There was a Connecticut mansion, a home in Las Vegas, a mansion in Maryland that spanned 19,000 square feet. Each one carried staff, security, taxes, and maintenance. Each one was a mouth that had to be fed every single month. Therefore, the tiger is the perfect symbol of the whole arrangement. A tiger does not appreciate. A tiger does not compound. A tiger eats and ages and eventually becomes a liability. Kenya, the animal he loved, eventually injured a person, and Tyson was forced to give her up. That is what every asset in the compound was quietly doing, consuming, aging, turning from a symbol of power into a bill. But the money was still coming in faster than it went out, and as long as that was true, none of it looked like a problem. The scale of the fortune. To feel the fall, you have to respect the height, because the money Tyson generated was staggering even by the standards of the richest athletes who ever lived. He became the youngest heavyweight champion in history at 20 years old in 1986. His opponents were not merely losing, they were being carried out. When he fought Michael Spinks in 1988, he ended it in 91 seconds and collected a purse that, adjusted for inflation, would be worth more than $50 million today. For a fight that lasted less than 2 minutes. In the 1990s, he was pulling roughly $30 million per fight, over and over again. Forbes has estimated his total career earnings at around $400 million. At his peak, his net worth sat near $300 million. Sit with that number for a moment, because this is the heart of what this channel exists to examine. $300 million is not a lottery ticket. It is generational money. It is the kind of capital that, placed into ownership, into equity, into things that produce more of themselves, does not run out in one lifetime or even 3. It was, in his hands, a foundation on which an actual dynasty could have been built. But he was never taught the difference between having money and owning assets. Therefore, he did what the compound was designed to do. He fed it. The collapse. The unraveling did not happen all at once. It happened the way these things always happen, slowly, then all at once. There were the legal costs. In 1992, he was convicted of rape and served roughly 3.5 years in prison, years in which the earning stopped but the spending did not. There were the divorces and the settlements. There were the advisors and handlers who took their percentage of everything that passed through his hands. And there was the compound itself, still running, still hungry, still demanding to be fed whether or not he was fighting. By the time the arithmetic caught up with him, the numbers were brutal. In August of 2003, Mike Tyson filed for bankruptcy. A man who had earned close to $400 million declared himself more than $23 million in debt. The Ohio mansion, the one with the tigers and the mirrored ceilings, he had already sold in 1999 for $1.3 million. Today, that building is a church. The cages where the tigers once paced have been rebuilt into a pavilion where a congregation gathers. Read that again slowly. The private zoo is now a house of worship. That is the end of the spectacle. And for the casual observer, that is where the story stops. The cautionary tale, the rise and fall. But if the story ended there, it would not belong on this channel, because a fall is not a lesson. A fall is only a lesson when someone survives it and comes back understanding what they did not understand before. Look closely at how the money actually left him, because the mechanics matter more than the headline. Some of it went to lawyers and settlements. Some of it went to advisors and handlers who quietly took a percentage of everything that passed through his hands, a percentage he was too busy or too trusting to question. But the largest share was simply eaten by the lifestyle itself, by the monthly cost of being the most extravagant man alive. When you own many mansions and none of them earn, you do not own homes. You own bills with roofs. And when the fight stopped paying and the bills kept arriving, the outcome was only ever a matter of time. And that is exactly what happened next. The pivot to ownership. Somewhere in the wreckage, Tyson learned the one thing the tigers could never teach him. He learned that the most valuable asset he had ever owned was not a mansion or an animal or a car. It was his own name. Think about what that name carried. Fear, respect, recognition in every country on earth, a story everyone already knew. For decades, he had rented that name out for other people to profit from. Promoters, networks, film studios, all of them built businesses on the value of the word Tyson, while he collected a fee and moved on. The second act began the moment he decided to stop renting the name and start owning what it produced. His first attempt was a cannabis venture called Tyson Ranch, launched around 2017. It did not survive in its original form. It went quiet, defunct within a few years. But he had learned enough to try again with a sharper structure. In October of 2021, he returned with a brand called Tyson 2.0, and this time he built it correctly. He came in as a co-founder with real equity, not just a paid face. The company partnered with one of the largest cannabis operators in the country, which gave the brand national distribution almost overnight. By 2024, Tyson 2.0 was reporting annual revenue above $50 million, with projections to climb higher still. And the cannabis brand was only one room in a larger house. He built a podcast called Hotboxin, a show that grew into millions of subscribers and turned his voice, his story, and his unlikely calm into a media property he controlled. His name became the anchor of a wider group of brands, an umbrella of ventures that industry reporting has put in the range of $150 million in annual revenue across all of its parts. Notice the pattern. Every one of these things is an asset that produces while he sleeps. Not a single one of them needs to be fed the way a tiger did. If that inversion is landing for you, the shift from spending money to owning assets, subscribe now, because that single idea is the thread running through every story on this channel. But the sharpest move was smaller than any of that, and it tells you everything about what he finally understood. He took the single worst moment of his career, the night in 1997 when he bit off part of Evander Holyfield's ear on live pay-per-view. The moment that made him a punchline for years, and he turned it into a product. Ear-shaped cannabis gummies with a bite taken out of them. Mike Bites. They sold out. Therefore, the lesson had fully landed. The old Tyson spent money to look wealthy. The new Tyson took his most humiliating memory and made it an asset that pays him. That is the entire distinction this channel is built to teach, compressed into a single bag of candy. The comeback economics. Then came the night that proved the name had become the most valuable thing he owned. On November 15th of 2024, at 58 years old, Mike Tyson stepped into a ring against Jake Paul, a former social media star 3 decades younger than him. Traditional boxing fans called it a spectacle. They were not entirely wrong. But look at what the spectacle was actually worth. The fight streamed live on Netflix and drew a global audience estimated around 108 million viewers, peaking at roughly 65 million households watching at the same moment. It became, by viewership, one of the most watched combat sporting events in history. Tyson lost the fight on the scorecards, but he was not there to win the fight. He was there to convert his name into capital one more time. For a single night of work, he was reportedly paid around $20 million. $20 million generated not by a mansion or a tiger, but by the asset he had spent his whole life underestimating. His prior net worth, before that night, had been estimated at around $10 million. In one evening, the name roughly tripled it. And notice who else got rich off that name. Netflix reportedly spent around $60 million to stage the event. And in exchange, the platform added close to 19 million new subscribers, a gain that analysts valued in the billions on an annual basis. Think about the leverage in that. A man who once needed a fight purse just to keep the lights on in one of his mansions is now the kind of asset a global corporation pays a fortune to borrow for a single evening. That is the quiet inversion at the center of this story. The world used to profit from Tyson while he spent himself into ruin. Now the world still profits from Tyson, but this time he holds equity in the thing they are buying. And this time, the story goes, he did not build a zoo. Reports suggest much of that payout went into a single Florida mansion, which means the old instinct never fully died. But the machine underneath him is different now. Underneath the spending sits a brand with real revenue, real equity, real distribution. Therefore, for the first time in his life, Mike Tyson is not only a man who earns, he is a man who owns. The lesson. So, return to the beginning, to the tiger on the chain and the mansion with the cages, and see it now for what it truly was. That compound was never wealth. It was the appearance of wealth, which is the most expensive thing a person can buy. Every object in it depreciated. The tigers aged and were given away. The cars lost value the moment he drove them off the lot. The Ohio mansion became a church. The Connecticut mansion passed to other hands. Not one piece of that spectacle sent a single dollar back to the man who bought it. That is the definition of consumption. And Tyson consumed at a scale almost no human being ever gets the chance to. What survived was the one thing he never bought and could never lose: the name. And the difference between the man who lost $400 million and the man who owns a brand today is not talent or luck or a second fortune falling from the sky. The difference is a single idea that arrived 20 years too late to save the tigers, but right on time to save the man. Fame depreciates. Ownership compounds. He learned it in the hardest possible way. And the fact that he learned it at all is why this is not a tragedy. It is a blueprint written in the most expensive ink there is. There is one more piece of this story worth sitting with. That Connecticut mansion Tyson once owned, the one he customized at the height of his spending, was later bought by another man from the culture who understood ownership far earlier than Tyson did. A man who recorded an album inside its walls and built empires almost no one even connects to his name. If you want to see how that man turned a rougher start into a fortune Tyson is still chasing, that story is waiting for you next. Now, I want to hear from you, so pick your number and drop it in the comments. 1. The tigers were the craziest part. I had no idea. 2. The Mike Bites move was genius. That is real ownership. 3. 300 million and it still was not enough. That is the scariest part. 4. Do the 50-cent breakdown next. I need that one.